to meet you. I know you've talked to other rebels before. Have I accurately described what you do? And you attend these events in sort of a passive resistance kind of way. You're not a provocateur. You're not shouting. You don't engage. You're sort of just your presence there is,
that's right,
is your statement. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have gone to some of these events. Honestly, the majority of the time I'm just hanging out on this, very busy. I travel all around North America. I've been to probably 25 or 30 states and provinces. I go to a lot of university campuses and I talk to the students on campus. And the great majority of the time it's peaceful. But of course, what really makes the headlines are when I get attacked, which has happened numerous times. So sometimes I do go to these events. Sometimes I hold my own protests. But really, I wear these signs as a means of starting conversation. I don't strictly consider myself a protester. I'm out there having one conversation at a time about the greatest child abuse scandal in the history of modern medicine.
Yeah. So tell me what some of your signs say.
So my main message is children cannot consent to puberty blockers. That's normally on my front. Sometimes I wear the one that says my definition of a dad, which is a human male who protects his kids from gender ideology. And I've got some other signs for mainly when other people come out with me. Gender ideology does not belong in schools, because that's where a lot of kids are falling into this. Children are never born in the wrong body is another message, because that's what our kids are being taught, that just because they don't conform to regressive sexist stereotypes associated with their sex, that this must mean that they were born wrong. Yeah. What an abusive thing to say to a child. That right there is already ridiculous. But now they're medicalizing kids just because they're a bit different. It's totally insane.
And for simply holding those signs, and I've seen those signs, and I appreciate you. I mean, you told them to us verbatim. Those signs are statements of your opinion. I would imagine most people would regard them as statements of fact. There's no insults. There's no derogatory terms there. There's no threats or anything like that. And yet you are constantly at least verbally berated and as most attacked. In fact, I think you actually still have a black eye right now.
Yeah, I do. So I went to this event on Friday and I'd only been there for 5 seconds, literally 5 seconds. I saw my friend Pierre Barnes, who's an amazing man who has done more research than anyone in Canada about some of these pornographic books that are in schools. And he's exposed a lot of that. He sends a lot of emails to trustees and that sort of thing. But he was there by himself, surrounded by these hostile people. So I started to walk up to him and I couldn't even get to him because I was immediately assaulted. Someone came with a marker and marked up my sign, and I ended up with a bloody nose out of that. So I called the police because there were no police there. And they came, I guess they were just around the corner. And so I knew right away, as soon as I started talking to the first officer, Constable Frederick Bachman, that I had a problem on my hands, because I said to her, I should be able to walk freely in a Canadian park without getting assaulted. And she said, well, yeah. So right away, I knew I had a big problem on my hands.
Yeah, just incredible. Well, we played the first clip of you with your friend Pierre Barnes. I'd like to play the second clip, and this is the assault that took place. So here, this is a 1-minute clip. We'll be right back. Take a look.
Why do you think they're getting that kind of representation? I mean, it's clearly was aggressive, violent assault.
You suck. You suck. Fuck you. Fuck you. You're not wanted. Fuck you. You're a fucking idiot. You're a fucking idiot.
I don't know what to say. I guess these police officers are mostly indoctrinated as well.
Everyone here.
They're afraid of the mob.
Because you're a fucking idiot.
I think they're afraid that if they do anything to actually keep law and order, that they'll end up being on the end of this verbal abuse. So it's just cowardice from everybody all around.
People probably want to know, how do you keep your composure?
Fuck you!
What's that?
How do you keep your composure?
Fuck you! 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 Hey! Get your fucking ass up there! You son my phone, my purse, my dog.
I have to say, Chris, if you were any other demographic, if you were a transgender activist, if you were, and by the way, peaceful protest, not provoking in any way, if you were any other demographic group, or if you were on the other side of this issue, I think not only would this be huge mainstream media news, but the police would have, called it a hate crime against you, a politically motivated crime. They might have even called it terrorism against you, since it was violence in pursuit of a political objective. But you mentioned the cop, Frederick Bachman, and just incredible. Let's take a look at the officer. And by the way, Rebel News has a petition to fire Officer Bachman. I think the likelihood of that is low. In fact, if anything, the senior brass are rallying to her defense. Take a look at this cop, and you tell me, is this someone who neutrally and impartially enforces the law? Take a look.
Listen, I love the police. My brother's a police officer. I respect law and order. I respect our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And I'm not trying to be a jerk to you earlier today. I don't think a lot of you understand what I'm actually representing and the seriousness of this situation. But it is what it is, I guess. This is Canada, and people shouldn't be allowed to assault people without consequence,
I agree, Chris, but the thing is, right, when we get into people's faces and they get into our faces, it doesn't really matter who does the first push. It's considered a consensual fight, and maybe that's something you should.
I didn't get into people's faces. I was
Chris,
here for.
I saw
you weren't
very close to people.
You weren't here.
And
you weren't even here.
I was.
I came and walked. I came over to your car.
Yes, that first time.
After.
But the second time.
The second time, what?
When you were pushed on the ground.
Are you kidding me? I'd been walking away from them.
Yeah, and they surrounded
to do an interview with him. They came close. I walked away again to do the interview with him.
All I'm saying is at this point, maybe
they
you
surrounded
should ask your brother what a consensual fight
no.
is, right?
Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. I walked away from them 3 times. They were surrounding me. You all were doing nothing. A man yelled in my ear from inches away, and I tried to get out of this situation where they're surrounding me while you guys do nothing, and I immediately get punched in the face. And you're blaming me?
And whoever punched you should be charged.
Are you kidding me right now?
You punched him in the face.
This is totally surreal. I cannot believe what I'm hearing.
It's all your fault.
Amazing.
It's surreal.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Totally amazing.
Okay. Well,
Do you even know what why are you behaving like this? Do you think I'm evil or something for having this position? Like, what's your problem?
Yeah, you are female. And this should be an issue for you.
This has nothing to do with you, okay?
What happened?
Right, I'm a female. It has nothing to do with me, this trans thing. No, nothing to do with women.
I'm talking to somebody else about something, okay?
It doesn't. These conversations are pointless right now. You're trying to insinuate that was a mutual thing. Like, my gosh. Mutual thing. I'd walked away from the crowd 3 times. They kept following me. Then they surrounded me from all sides, started yelling in my ear from inches away while you all did nothing. And then when I can't even get out of that surrounding and I get punched in the face, I get pulled, you're telling me that's a mutual engagement?
Yes, it is. Well, you have the
Incredible.
Right, you have the right not to be here either.
It's incredible.
Right? So,
And I have the right to be here.
Yeah,
yes, you do.
Have you
but-
read this thing called the Charter of Rights and Freedoms?
Yes, I have.
Have you?
Yes, I have.
You should go home and read it again.
On whose orders are you guys acting on?
I've never heard a cop talk that way before. She didn't even really feel like a cop. She felt like someone who was plucked out of some gender studies class, put in a uniform and told, go out there and, propagate your ideology. Like, it wasn't just that she was political. It was just how unprofessional she was. And, oh, you guys are fighting. Yeah, you consented to that. It's a mutual fight. I got nothing. I'm not going to get involved. I've never seen anything like that before.
It was surreal. The whole experience was surreal. And it's not just that. She called that a mutual fight. So I'm giving an interview. I've got people on each side of me screaming obscenities in my ears, inches from my ears. I did a little turnaround to film the crowd. I come back around, and now they've kind of moved in front of me. And one of those screams in particular really hurt my ear because it was very close. And I wanted to get out of there, but I didn't even push them. I put a hand up to protect my space. because he's on top of me. Am I supposed to let him climb right on top of me before I do anything? And if you touch their pinky toe, they take this as a sign of aggression and they use it as an excuse to try to clobber you. So that's what they wanted. That's what the police wanted. As that assault happened, that police officer, Frederick Bachman, was smiling away with her hands in her pockets. She later said to independent journalist Dan Dix that I instigated this by screaming at people. I recorded every single second.
Excuse me, did you just say he came here to incite violence by forcing his opinion on people?
Yeah. Yes.
You think he came here to incite violence because they got offended by his sign?
When you
What
talk
is
to
wrong
someone
with you?
and scream at someone and
He
put
didn't
your
scream
face,
at all.
Yes,
he
did.
didn't. They put their face in his face. What is
Yes.
wrong with
Okay.
you?
Okay.
So are you saying the guy who hit him
How on
was
earth did you become a
defending
police
himself
officer?
in self-defense?
She's literally
What?
sitting here saying that Billboard Chris is inciting violence by standing there with his sign. Is that really your position?
Okay, sir. We're done with this conversation.
Yeah, I thought so.
One more question.
I thought
Did you
so.
guys
This
get
is
some sort of-
absolutely unbecoming of the Vancouver Police Department. Disgusting.
It's insane. It's just a lie. He's just making stuff up.
And now this went viral on the internet, but I soon saw the deputy police chief chimed in, but not for the rule of law, not to say we're reviewing the matter, but it was basically a complaint. He was tweeting how outraged he was that people were mean to that officer, Frederick Bachman, and how he stands by her. So she's not under investigation. She, at least as of last night when I saw these tweets by the deputy chief, and he's condemning any criticism of her. In other words, he's condoning her policing. Has anything changed since last night? Do you know? Do you know if this officer is being scrutinized or reviewed in any way? Have you filed a complaint against this officer?
I haven't yet filed my complaint. I will be. I've already been in touch with a lawyer. So I'll be doing everything I can to sue her or the Vancouver Police Department and go through their own channels as well with the police commissioner, etc. But she should not be empowered. She has previous complaints against her where an Indigenous woman had reported her 29-year-old son missing. And it turns out he had done cocaine and it was laced with fentanyl, and the fentanyl killed him. So this woman, who seems to have no compassion, a classic cluster B personality, she showed up to the Indigenous woman's home, the police officer did, and in the entrance to the home, she said, first of all, your son is dead. And the woman, who's already in a state of anxiety, this mother, collapsed to the floor. So the officer was reprimanded by this. She was found guilty of discreditable conduct or whatever by a judge. And I hear that there's more information that Rebel News is going to be breaking about this officer as well, but she should not be employed.
That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant Show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. You know, we rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.